All right, this presentation is going to go over the major points in the job application materials assignment that I've given you. There are some things that I think that you need to be aware of as you are moving through this assignment, and this presentation is going to go over those points so that you are better able to do the work. So in this discussion, I'm going to be going over the process from applicant to hired. I'm going to talk to you about what recruiters are looking for. This information I have gleaned from talking to many of the recruiters in the Treasure Valley for major businesses here. Then we're going to look at the resume, and we're going to break it down by what the properties of the resume should be and what kind of content should be in the resume. And then also I'm going to go over the cover letter. Again, looking at the properties of the cover letter, what you need to include in there. The next thing I'm going to go over is the tips to help you stand out from the crowd. I'm going to give you some helpful tips that I've gotten from, again, those recruiters I've talked to, and to hopefully help you be the most successful at getting a job out there. And then the last thing, I'll just wrap up and reiterate the major points. All right, so the process from applicant to hired. There are 4 steps basically as you apply for a job. So you have of course you apply. You can go through your search engines like Indeed and Monster, but ultimately you're going to end up applying on the company's site or on their job board, whatever they use to manage that. Once your resume makes it through that part and it gets to the recruiter and the recruiter decides to talk to you, you're going to have a phone interview with the recruiter. This is usually separate from the people you'll actually be working with. So the next step will typically be with the hiring manager over the phone. Now, sometimes the recruiter and the hiring manager can go hand in hand. They'll do it together. But you never know. You could end up talking to one at a time. The last part will be a face-to-face interview, and that's when you talk to the hiring manager and whoever else is going to be on the team to hire you, to bring you on and get you into the company. Now there is one more part to the process, and that is the follow-up. It is important, very crucial to follow up. It distinguishes you from other people, and it shows that you're genuinely interested in the job. So don't be afraid to follow up. Send an email, send a thank you card. Do something to let those people know that you appreciate them taking the time out of their day to meet with you. Alrighty. So here's what recruiters are looking for when they first look at your resume. They're going to be looking at keywords right off the bat. Are you pulling the keywords out of the job posting, and are they in your resume? Are they in your cover letter? Those will be the things that they search for when they're looking at candidates for that job. The next thing they're going to be looking at is soft skills. This is where your leadership skills come into play, and your teamwork, and being able to have good customer service, all those skills that you can't be taught, you just learn from experience. They're going to be looking for those. The next thing they'll look at is your technical skills. Do you have the skills necessary to do the actual job? After that, they're going to be looking at the interest in the company. Do you know what the company's about? Do you know what their history and background is? This shows a lot of value to them because they want somebody who's going to be interested in doing well for the company. For interns, they're going to be looking for anyone who's 3.0 or higher, especially a company like Micron. However, that doesn't mean that anybody with less has no chance. It just means you have to do more work. And by more work, it just means you need to explain yourself. Explain yourself in your cover letter. Give a follow-up call once you submit that application, once you've talked to them. This will go a long way in helping them understand how you would be a good fit. All right, let's look at your resume. So your resume, once it gets into the hands of the recruiter, it has about 8 seconds. If the recruiter can't read it, it's going to just go right in the trash. So you may as well just give up there. Therefore, make it easy to scan. This is where your headings and bolding and using white space is going to come into play. You need to use a simple design. Their systems will take your document and render it a certain way. If you have weird text boxes, or if you are using content control boxes, which comes with a lot of those templates that you find on Microsoft Word, it's going to make your resume look weird. So you need to use a simple design. Definitely use sentence fragments, bullet points. Keep your statements brief. We're not telling a story. We're not writing an essay. You're wanting to hit the highlights of your job experience and your education experience. And then also make sure that it's a full page. If you are running onto a second page, then you need to play with your document and get it to adjust so that you are just making up a whole page or 2 full pages. You don't want half pages anywhere. Make sure that that's what it does. It just looks cleaner, it looks more professional. All right, so let's look at a resume, property, and content. So this is an example that I've kind of put together to kind of go over what we're looking at. Here you can see the person's name is the largest text at the top of the document. You still use your address, your phone number, your email, and your LinkedIn profile. If you've got a LinkedIn profile, this will help you a lot. Put it here. Strongly recommend that you build a LinkedIn profile. In fact, I have another tutorial that talks about LinkedIn profile and kind of gives you a quick and dirty on how to set one up, how to get it edited so that it does you service. The next thing here, so summary. I've talked to many recruiters about this, and this particular section, they can take it or they can leave it. The only thing a summary is good for is explaining anything that can't just be easily understood from your resume. So this would be a place where someone who has less than a 3.0 GPA would explain, would talk about their good qualities and the reason why they should be, that they want to get that job. This is just another place, but you want to keep it very brief. Like I wrote in this section, it's not necessary. You want to just keep it really brief, but explain how maybe your degree and what you want to do may not necessarily align with what you're looking to do for a career, but you would still be a good candidate anyway. So the next section is your education. Now, with your education, since you're all still in school, it's important to put your coursework in there. And if you're going to put your coursework in there, leave out arbitrary things like introduction to technical communication. It's just technical communication. It's not introduction to chemistry, it's just chemistry. And especially if you're doing higher level stuff, just include the main point of the class. I don't want to see English 202. You don't need that. They don't understand what that is. Just tell them what it is. You take Tech Comm. That's the class that you're in right now. So technical communication. Make sure you put on there the anticipated date of graduation. You're not graduated yet, so they don't need to know how long you've been in school, just when you expect to graduate. And then, of course, highlight your GPA. If your GPA is 3.0 or higher, highlight it. If it's not, you don't have to, all right? You don't want to call unnecessary attention to something that's not necessarily something you want quite obvious. All right, skills. This one, let's have this at the top near your education. And the reason why I say that is because the recruiters are looking for your specific skills right away. So you have them closest to the top of the page, they'll be very happy with that. Now notice here I've got 2 ways to list your skills. Now you can get a little bit wordy and you can say proficient with Microsoft Office Suite. That's totally fine. However, you can also just list Microsoft Office Suite. People get it. You don't have to spell it out for them. So you can list it either way. Just whichever way you choose, be consistent. So if you're going to say Microsoft Office Suite, make sure that everything you say underneath it kind of follows that same pattern. Don't mix them up. You want consistency. Now under your experience, since you're going to list the majority of your skills in a skills section, your experience is simply your job title, the place where you work, city and state, and then the date of when you started to current, or the date you started and the day it ended. It doesn't have to be day, it just can be month, year. Not a huge deal to get overly detailed there. They just want to know where you worked and for how long, okay? Notice too that I've got the job titles bolded. That helps the recruiter see really quickly what your titles were, where you were, so that they can move through your document very quickly and efficiently. So notice the bolding, notice how it's not overwhelming the page. It just calls specific information out to make it easier to find and read. Volunteer activities are huge. They're super important because they give you those skills, a lot of times your soft skills that you don't normally get from your classroom. So highlight any volunteer experience that you have, anything outside of work, outside of school, that you can bring to the table that highlights your experiences. And make sure you highlight those key words: teamwork, leadership, teaching. Those kinds of things draw attention to all those other good qualities that they're looking for. And make sure you put the dates on there of when you did it, where you were working for, and then just go through briefly what you did. It is appropriate and okay to include your interest. Your interests are not the main focus of your document, but it may help the people who are reading it relate to you better. So just list a few of your favorite hobbies, especially if they pertain to the career field that you're going into. That could mean a lot for you in the long run. And lastly, at the bottom of your resume, now this is just the resume, you will put references are available upon request. And the reason why I say that is because you don't want to send your references with your resume unless they are specifically requested. Typically, references are given to whoever the hiring manager is, or is given to the recruiter after that initial phone interview. Your references won't get called until after they talk to you, because then it's that point that they're going to want to verify information, not beforehand. So references do not need to be listed on your resume. All right. Now, another thing I want you to notice here is that all the summary, education, skills, experience, etc., they are all the same in heading. All I used here was a heading 1. That makes them easy to read. It makes it just makes setting up your document so much easier. I am not using any content control boxes. I'm not using anything that's going to throw off the content in this document. It's just simple styles. The other thing I want you to notice too is that your dates all line up from each section to each section. The key here is consistency. You want your document to flow and be consistent all the way through. It makes it look professional, it's easy to read, and it just makes it look like you're an intelligent human being. Now, I wanted to go over your references really fast here. Again, at the top, you have your name and address and all your contact information, because this will be turned in separate from your resume. So your second page of a resume, if you have to build a second page, should not look the same at the top, and I will go over that with you at another time if that's something you need to do. But the references page needs to look the same at the very top as your resume does. So just be aware of that. And also here, notice the references is the same font, same style as the other ones. And actually, no, it's not. It's supposed to be, but yes, it needs to be the same, because you're using the same kind of material. It needs to flow together. It's supposed to be part of a same doc. So just be aware of that. All right, so with your references, this is how they should look. You need to refer to each person by their professional title. Mr., Mrs., Doctor. All of these things are important. Be sure to include their professional title. Also include their business, whatever their business title is underneath. So Mr. Carl Jones is a PE, which is a professional engineer, and his title at his company is Senior Mechanical Engineer. Make sure you include that. And then state where he is. For all your references, I strongly recommend that you use their business contact information. Don't use personal information unless you specifically requested it from that individual. It just makes it a lot less awkward for the recruiter to contact them and talk to them. Also include their phone number and their email. You never know how a recruiter may be able to reach out to that person to talk to them about you. The next thing I want you to notice here is that there is a brief summary of how you know that reference. Just one sentence is totally fine. It just lets the recruiter know who this person is to you. Okay? All right, let's go over the cover letter. All right, so the cover letter is not always mandatory, but do it anyway. A lot of times it shows initiative on your part, and the company actually appreciates that. This gives you a chance to explain why you want the job, especially for people who are transitioning from one career field to another and may not feel confident that their skills translate over. This gives you that chance to talk about it. For you students, this gives you the chance to say, hey, this is why I want to do this job. It's where I want to go with my future. It gives you that chance to explain it. Make sure that you use all the keywords that you can in there because again, when the recruiter does the search for the job applicants, they're going to be looking for keywords first. Make sure you sell yourself. Talk about the good things you've done, especially be specific. Give specific examples of the positive changes that you've brought to something, or of the leadership skills that you were able to demonstrate, or the lessons you've learned. Also, ask for an interview in your cover letter. I know that sounds really weird and it may seem uncomfortable, but it's not a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing because it shows you're interested, and that's what you want to do. All right, so here's an example of a cover letter. Notice at the top here, it's just street address, city, state, zip. Do not include your name. Your name should not be at the top of this document. Your phone number and email address should not be at the top of this document. Make sure that you have the recipient's name, position, company, information, all of that there. If you're applying to a job ad and it doesn't include that information, this is where you're going to have to go to the company site, look up their contact information, and if you can't find it on their site, you need to call the company and ask for the recruiter's information. This is huge. This is a big deal. Find this information, include it in your cover letter. I can't stress that enough. Recruiters love this. It shows that you care. Do it. In your very first paragraph in your letter, you need to say that you want to be considered for the specific position you're applying for and where you found it. Okay? You need to explain the reason that you feel that you would be the best candidate for this job is because of your background and your education, whatever. You need to sell them on, this is why I should be considered. The next two paragraphs are going to go into detail about your education and how it lends itself to the job, your experience and how it lends itself to the job, or even just how your past experience may not align with the current job roles, but you're interested, you're dedicated, and you're willing to learn. Okay? Those are the things you want to talk about here. Your last paragraph, you can almost take this verbatim off of this. You're including your resume with this reference, or you're including your resume with this letter for their reference. When it is most convenient for them, may you schedule an interview. Here's how you can contact me. And then list your phone number and your email here. This is the only place I want to see it in your cover letter. Then you need to thank them for their time, and then make sure you use a professional closing, like sincerely, regards. Okay, those are more professional. I don't want to see cheers. I don't want to say see you later. Nothing that's arbitrary, nothing that is slang. It should be very professional. And then give yourself a couple spaces between your sincerely and then putting in your name. And at the very bottom, you're going to want to put enclosure, especially if this is included with your resume. Be sure that you include that you have an additional document with this letter so that the recruiter knows those two go together. You may have more items that go with your cover letter, especially if the job you're applying for requires that you provide samples. I know for my particular industry, I have to provide writing samples and examples of documents I've created, so I may have multiple enclosures. Be sure to include that number in this document. All right, so tips to help you stand out from the crowd. Are you ready? Got a pen and paper? Here we go. Proofread and spell check all your materials before you submit them. Recruiters will tell you time and time again what makes them turn a resume and cover letter away faster than anything else is finding a typo on a resume. Just check your stuff before you submit it. If you have a resume full of typos, there's no way you're going to make it past the trash can. Tailor each resume and cover letter to each and every job you are applying for. You should not have a standard resume that you're going to send out. You need to make sure that and the reason why I'm saying this is because your keywords are going to change according to what job you're applying for. So they need to be tailored. You need to research the company before interviewing. I strongly recommend that you do that. The recruiter will thank you for it. Show interest and ask questions, especially during the interview process. You'd be surprised how many people show up and they have no questions. They don't know anything about the company and they just want the job and they just want to be paid. That's all that they want to do. Those people will be turned away faster than anybody else. So take interest in the company that you're applying to. Be prepared to show off your skills, especially when you get to the point where you're doing a face-to-face interview with the hiring manager and the team. They're going to want to see what you can do. So just be prepared. Whatever you put in your resume, you better be able to do. So don't lie about it. Show enthusiasm and be nice. The recruiter may not seem like they're an important person to the job role, and for all intents and purposes, they're not hiring you based on your skill there. That's up to the hiring manager. What the recruiter is going to do is assess whether or not you have the kind of personality that they're looking for. So if you're rude and you dismiss that person, you could have just shot yourself in the foot. So just be nice. And follow up, like I mentioned. Give yourself 3 days after submitting job application materials and contact the recruiter to follow up on where they are in reviewing them, reviewing the resumes. You'd be surprised that that actually could put you at the top of the list for callbacks. And then make sure you follow up immediately after the interview. Send a thank you card or an email, just thanking those people for their time. They took time out of their busy schedule to talk to you to find out if you're a good fit. And then always be able to use their names. You may not be able to submit thank you cards to each and every person individually. You might have to do it by group, but remember their names. Write down their names. Don't forget them and put them in the card. It actually goes a long way in making them feel like you cared about them. Alrighty, and now we're at the conclusion. So just to reiterate, use simple formatting and design. Check for spelling, grammar, punctuation, and continuity. These are really important. Make sure that your document looks consistent all the way through. Make sure that you've checked everything so that you don't have glaring spelling errors. Get to the point. Brevity is your friend. You don't need to use complete sentences. Fragments are fine. Just get straight to the point as fast as you can. Get to know that company. It goes a long way. Plus, you may find that you may not even like the company that you were looking at applying to, and that can help you save some time. Follow up and thank the interviewers, which I think I've said enough there. And then lastly, just be genuine and courteous as you're moving through the process of just applying for jobs and getting hired. It can go a long way in helping people realize your potential and helping you fit into the company. If you've got any other questions, don't hesitate to contact me, and I will be happy to go over anything that you need extra help with. I hope this will help you in preparing your job application materials for this assignment.